Awesome. We are
Nice.
so in sync, bro. Like the boy band.
Hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. Welcome back to Aetheral Space.
Yeah, this is
1.14.
my favorite web serial right now. To be fair, also the only one I'm reading aside from a couple of D&D webcomics. But nevertheless, this is my favorite right now.
I'm glad to hear that.
And I hope it gets an anime adaptation.
It won't.
Oh, well maybe...
Your hopes are pointless.
Well, first it'll get a comic, then it'll get a cartoon. Right?
Of course.
Yeah, when are you gonna get a comic?
Now.
Here's the thing, this is actually really fun to read, but just more people need to know about it, fam. Also, what is with all these consistent 6-page chapters? It's like actually scary how consistent it is.
Don't worry about it.
Alright.
Let's get into it.
I just want to say, I want to give a quick congratulations to Tan, and this isn't meant to be like a poke fun at him. I'm like actually proud. Tan has worked on web serials in the past and dropped them, but like you've been going with this for a really long time now, and I really think you're gonna see it all the way through.
Thank you.
And I'm just really proud of you. That's all.
Me too.
All right. We ready to do this? All right. Bruno Del Ced was in the dark, waiting. That was fine. He was used to waiting. He'd waited in one spot for a week straight once, nestled in an apex tree, moving only to take what sustenance he could from the invincible plant's sap. He'd waited longer than that when the GID had caught him. Sometimes he wondered if he was still waiting for rescue in that interrogation room, twitching in the chair. Oh my god. Sometimes he wasn't sure that his whole life after that wasn't just a desperate hallucination, his mind scrambling away from the pain and fear. Serena sent him a comforting pulse, lifting his spirits, just a little, but enough to count. If this was a hallucination, she said, don't you think it'd be less boring? Who hallucinates about waiting around in a stupid hatch? Fair enough. She had a good point. Bruno put a hand against the steel surface in front of him, pouring purple aether into his fingers. So this is interesting because we see the two personalities or souls or whatever they are interacting at the same time. So it's not like one's off and the other's on.
Yeah.
Bruno put a hand against the steel surface in front of him, pouring purple aether into his fingers to give them enough strength to give them strength enough to move without pain. The metal was still. He was in the same place then. A little while back, he'd felt his hiding place being moved, first by people, then by an elevator, then by people again. One of the most important qualities for a spy was their sense of direction. It was something the UAP had drilled into him, Serena and the rest early on. The moment you arrived somewhere, you made a map of that place in your head, and you kept constant track of where you and everyone else was on that map. Bruno smirked. He knew exactly where he was. Isn't UAP like the supremacy?
No, it's another government.
Oh, right. Come again, said Rikhail, face suddenly pale. He was speaking to the aide that had just walked in, who looked equally uncomfortable. Minister Goley, sir, the aide said. Minister Goley, sir, the aide said, drumming her fingers against her script nervously. He wants to speak to you, right away, he said. Well, did he say what it was about? The aide looked away. No, sir. You didn't ask. It was a very brief interaction, sir. He seemed very busy. Unbelievable, said Rikhail, wiping his brow. Oh, why is this happening now? He glanced at Skipper. Crossland, get him on ice while I fend off Goley, and get me an update on Hadrian, damn it! Where the hell is Musazi? Alright, this dude's got like way too many demands at the same time.
He's got a stressful life.
Yes, sir, nodded Crossland. I'll find out, sir.
The thing about Rikhail is he thinks he's a big, like, smart manipulator, but he's got too many fucking plans. Yeah, and they're crashing into each other.
Yeah, he's got one too many D&D campaigns at the same time, and he just can't keep it together. Skipper tensed up. It would be just him and Crossland in the chamber for a little while then. If he wanted to escape, now would be the time. How, though? The drug they'd used to cloud his mind seemed to be wearing thin. He reckoned he could get off one good heartbeat to shotgun, at the very most. Excuse me. That was easier said than done. He could fire them anywhere he wanted out of his body, but he still needed to make some kind of gesture to direct the blast. Pointing was the most accurate. Finger guns a little less so, but much cooler looking. The only limb he had that was capable of pointing was the arm strapped to the steel block behind him, so there was no way he was going to be able to use it. Nothing else for it, then. It would hurt like hell, but he had no other choice. Well, said Crossland as Rikhail trotted out of the room, if there won't be any further interruptions... He turned to look at Skipper. Oh, God, Tan's name is in the way. I can't see, only to find the singed stump of a missing arm pointing at him, just like the barrel of a shotgun. Now, hold on a second, Crossland said, very still right before he went flying across the room. He hit a table at the far end of the chamber and toppled over into a heap, clearly unconscious or worse. Skipper wasn't sure which he'd prefer. Crossland hadn't been especially unpleasant to him, but he got the feeling he would have liked to be. Skipper had always had a good sense for interrogators. At any rate, Crossland wasn't moving, which meant that step 1 of Skipper's escape plan was a resounding success. The only snag was that he hadn't taken the time to work out what steps 2 or 3 would be, and he was fairly sure they would be making up the meat of the plan. He was still strapped to a big steel block, and the drugs in the system were still circulating enough to make a second shot impossible for now. All he could really do was wait. Oh well, Skipper sighed. At least I won't get frozen again. Musashi dropped the twitching Prescott to the ground with a scowl. He'd taken pity on the traitor and cauterized his leg, but that pity was quickly being replaced by rage, and he wasn't entirely sure of its source. He'd been used, by Rikhail and Goalie both. Hadrian wasn't a defector. He'd just been a convenient piece in their underhanded game. Oh my god, so Prescott told him.
Yeah.
As had Musashi, a sword that would cut whatever it was told to. That wouldn't doubt its wielders in the least. Oh my god, is he gonna have character development? Because he always does what he's told, but he's, like, figuring out he was used. They had taken him lightly, thought of him as easy prey. It was irritating in the extreme. More than that, he felt humiliated. His hands shook with rage, his body instinctively responding in a way that his mind didn't quite understand. Hadrian wasn't here, not surprising, now that Musashi stopped and thought about it. The boy wasn't stupid. He'd have torn the tracking equipment out at the first opportunity to lead his pursuers on a merry chase. A good strategy. Effective. Musashi had a strategy of his own in mind. He needed to ask the Lord Mayor some questions. Oh no. I love that Musashi is so frickin' based all the time.
Fucking Rick Elsie's like an objective survive appear in front of him.
Yeah, literally, I just sneak peeked the next line. The hyena's coming, Musashi's coming, fucking Dragon's got a vendetta, Skipper. Even Prescott, probably. Because the hyena's out. Oh, fucking Rikhail. The hyena danced down the hallway, humming the tune to a half-remembered song. He was out! The day had started out shitty, lamentable, unkind, unpleasant, and overall very poor. But in the last few minutes, it had taken a sudden turn for the stupendous! He'd had his own escape in mind, of course, but to be released even earlier than he'd expected was a welcome treat, like biting into a cat's skull and finding unexpected cake instead. What? Huh? Is this a reference to the cake meme? What?
This is just his twisted mind.
Okay.
Welcome to his twisted mind.
He'd have to thank those two who had released him somehow. He would still have to kill them afterwards. They'd seen him in a vulnerable position after all. But he'd send them a fruit basket or something first. Would they like pineapple, or perhaps a fruit that less resembled a grenade would be better? Oh, the possibilities were endless. Stupendous, splendid, salacious, spicy, sick. This is Tanhony pulling out the fucking thesaurus. What a happy, happy day to be free to the world. The building rumbled, an explosion from down below. The hyena grinned. That was his breakout crew without a doubt. He'd lost Guimo, which was a shame, but Ibrahim and the others were more than capable of busting him out of a place such as this. He had faith in his boys, his comrades, his companions, thick and thin through dangerous thick and thin. They wouldn't fail him, and if they did, they wouldn't live long after that. As another explosion shook the heart building, the hyena whooped, kicking his legs in the air. He needed to pay a visit to his piggy. Time was short after all, and pigs were born for the slaughter. You sure about that? Muttered Blaine as she and Dragon stalked through the hallways. Letting him go? Dragon glanced back at her, rolling his eyes underneath his helmet. Expecting her to understand his tactics had been a little unfair, clearly, but she could at least pretend. He'll make a good distraction while we search for Skipper, he said. Besides, if we're lucky, he might go and get shot in the head. Jeez, that's awful, Blaine said, but Dragon could have sworn he heard a barely suppressed laugh behind it. You really hate that guy, don't you? Dragon hesitated uncomfortably as he checked the words on the doors they moved past. It's not him, specifically. It's just people like him. Oh, so you're racist then? You don't like Umbrans? He rolled his eye. What's an Umbrand again?
That's like his fucking subspecies.
Is Hyena humanoid, or isn't he like a cat guy?
He was human.
Okay. He rolled his eyes. You're taking me a little too literally. It's more like, you know, people who profit by I don't know how to phrase it. Making other people uglier? I hate them. To death. Blaine cocked her head. Isn't that what you do, though? You've been trying to take advantage of people since the second you landed here. Don't think I haven't noticed. He frowned. That's different. How's that different? I only use people who are already ugly, but the hyena makes people awful. It's different. Blaine stopped for a moment, leaning against the wall, her arms crossed. Well, how do you tell if someone's awful? I just know. How? Blaine was relentless. She has a good point. Guys like him always think everyone's a scumbag fucking Redditor with his fedora.
You're awful, Murray.
How about another joke, hyena? Dragon hesitated. They really didn't have time for this, but the constant questioning was getting on his nerves. He didn't enjoy the sensation of being picked apart like a corpse in an autopsy. Most people are awful, in the end, he said quietly. You just have to wait for them to show it. There were a few precious moments of silence as they carried on down the corridor, checking doors, until Blaine spoke again. You really think that? She sounded distinctively pitying, and Dragon squeezed his good hand tight. I don't say things I don't mean, he replied tersely. That's not what Skipper said. Dragon whirled around to face her, not even caring as his broken arm exploded with pain. Well, what does he know? He snapped. And what do you know? I'll tell you. Yes, everyone's awful on the inside. The hyena guys were the worst, but everyone else would be just as bad if they got the chance. The only reason people seem good is because they don't think they can get away with being like that. Those are the choices. You're either cruel or a coward. Blaine was still. You really think that? She said again quietly. That kind of goes against his whole thought of making people ugly then if everyone's already ugly.
It's not very rational.
Of course I do. You're wrong. Dragon clenched his fist. I'm what? I said you're wrong. He's about to fucking Reddit Brigader post. The building shook again deep down below. No doubt the hyena's escape plan was in progress. Red light shone through the windows as sunset came. This really had been a long day, and it seemed it was about to get longer. Like I said, Dragon muttered. What do you know? You can say I'm wrong all you like, but if you don't have a reason, Blaine interrupted him. I used to think exactly like that. That there was no hope, and that people just got worse and worse until they died. That this world just gave you no choice but to be like that. Well, it seems like you knew what you were talking about. No, I didn't, said Blaine, taking a step forward. I thought I did, but I was wrong. I was just angry, and I wanted to be angry. Skipper showed me that. Skipper showed me that people can be good if you give them the chance. Dragon faltered, hand resting on the door of the latest room in front of him. Well, he mumbled. What do you know? He'd been saying that a lot in the last few minutes. That's not really a response to that, Dragon. He turned back towards the door, comparing it with the information they'd managed to grab from the hyena's holding cell. This was the cell number for another priority prisoner. I'll show you, said Blaine from behind him. Dragon didn't look back at her as he spoke, eager to force the conversation to an end. Show me what? That people can be good. That they're not what you think of them. Dragon squeezed his eyes shut, gritted his teeth, and barely suppressed rage. Phantom hands wrapped around his throat, squeezing. An unwelcome memory. Half-remembered hateful eyes stared into his own from inside a memory. She didn't know what she was talking about. All she was saying were pretty words that sounded nice but had no effect on reality. Fine, he muttered. Do what you want. The door opened. The door opened. Fucking Full Metal Alchemist. Skipper looked up and whistled in excitement. The cavalry had finally arrived. Good to see you, kiddo, he grinned. Dragon Hadrian rolled his eyes. Wait, what's Blaine gonna show him? She's probably gonna, like, get Skipper to let him go, and then he's gonna be like, no, I'm staying, because you're the real good guys. Oh, that was good. I want more, Tan. I want it now.
Too bad.
I know. Well, as usual, folks, if you want to read this for yourself on your own time, then go to Royal Road. The link will be in the description. Also, of course, join the Discord if you want to hang out with Tan and I and a bunch of other people who are fans of the channel. Oh, is that the Black Moon howling?
It's the hyena.
It's the hyena? I thought he was just a human, though.
He is.
How does he have such guttural dog sounds?
It's because he's an Umbran, he can mess around with his voice.
Is that what Umbrans do?
So basically, here's a lore dump for you.
Okay.
So the Pugnants are the strongy guys.
Okay.
Cogitants are the smarty guys.
Are all of them? Do all of them end with ent?
Yes.
Okay.
And Umbrants were the sneaky guys.
Oh, sneaky. What makes them more built for stealth?
So there's a few things. They can change their voice.
Okay.
And they can also like edit their own memories to an extent. So if they're captured, they can just forget shit.
I wish. It's actually kind of dope. I wish I could do that. I would edit in happy memories.
And they have very limited shape-shifting and stuff like her color.
Nice. So basically, the hyena is based.
I thought you hated him.
I do hate him, but I like Umbrans now. I can change my voice, too. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Watch this. I'm going to turn into a British person. You won't be able to tell the difference.
You better fucking not.
Okay. I'm too scared now. Alright,
bye! This is like the killer intent you get from Muzazi.
Yeah, the fucking Muzazi was Prescott. Alright.
Bye!
Bye!